The national media has had a massive amount to say about your San Francisco 49ers this offseason, and to be completely honest, a lot of it hasn't been kind. Words like old, brittle, creaky, and expensive keep popping up in the exact same sentence as this historic franchise's name. In fact, some pretty prominent voices out there are boldly suggesting that this star-studded roster might be headed straight for a devastating 7-win season, while the rest of the NFC ruthlessly passes them by. Today on NFL Focus, we are going to break down exactly what these critics are saying, why the underlying data tells a completely different story, and why this so-called aging offense might have just proven every single doubter entirely wrong with last year's incredible numbers. Because when you actually dig into what the 49ers accomplished in 2025, despite every single thing that went wrong around them, the picture that emerges isn't one of a team falling apart. It is the picture of a team that genuinely showed up with ultimate heart and resilience, even when the injury report looked like an absolute disaster and the roster was literally duct-taped together for long stretches of the regular season. Let us start by looking closely at the heavy criticism, because it is worth laying out honestly and objectively before we completely dismantle it. Take Jason McIntyre, for example. He is a media personality who, by most accounts, says exactly what he genuinely believes, rather than just chasing wild hot takes for the sake of clicks. He came out recently and declared that this team looks like, in his exact words, a creaky, oldish team. He pointed directly to the high-profile departure of wide receiver Jawan Jennings. He noted the constant, lingering injury concerns surrounding star tight end George Kittle. He acknowledged that yes, San Francisco did make big moves by adding superstars Mike Evans and Christian Kirk in free agency, but then he turned right around and heavily questioned Christian McCaffrey's future workload, especially coming off the biggest, most physically demanding season of his entire career. On top of that, McIntyre raised massive red flags about the age of legendary left tackle Trent Williams. His final conclusion was that he could see this entire team teetering on the edge of a cliff, and he admitted he wouldn't be surprised at all if they ended up with somewhere around a mediocre 7 wins this season because of the cumulative, brutal toll of injuries and physical wear. Then we have Collin Cowherd, who put the situation in even simpler and far less charitable terms. Cowherd's take was essentially that he just does not get the plan. He thinks it does not feel or look right, and he stated firmly that being old, brittle, and expensive never ages well in a league as violent as the NFL. Now, let us pause and address this seriously for a second. Because on the very surface, these are not entirely unreasonable concerns. The 49ers do have an older offensive core. When you list iconic names like Trent Williams, George Kittle, and Kyle Juszczyk out in a row, it is easy to see why people get nervous. The injury history of this roster over the past 2 seasons has been genuinely brutal. Christian McCaffrey has absorbed an enormous, punishing workload. These are real, undeniable facts. But here is exactly where the conversation gets incredibly interesting, and where San Francisco beat reporter David Lombardi pushed back with some of the most nuanced and brilliant analysis you will find on the topic. Lombardi made 2 critical points that the national media is completely missing right now. First, the 49ers actually possess the 3rd youngest defense in the entire National Football League. That did not happen by accident. That is the result of a deliberate, highly strategic, multi-year investment in youth development at every single level of the defensive side of the ball. So, when national critics blindly shout that this is an old team, they are only actually talking about one side of the ball, because the defense as a whole is an incredibly young, fast, and hungry unit. Before we dive even deeper into the mind-blowing offensive analytics that prove the critics wrong, I want to take a quick moment for a very special note. If you are enjoying this deep dive, please take a second right now to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, share this video with your fellow football fans, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on this roster. We put an immense amount of hard work, sleepless nights, and genuine dedication into producing deep dive documentaries like this for you. To us, every single subscription equals an incredible burst of motivation to keep chasing the truth and delivering the high-quality film rooms and breakdowns you deserve. Help us grow this amazing football community, and let us get right back to the film. The second crucial point that David Lombardi pointed out, which completely shatters the oldest offense argument, is that it totally misses the rapid dynamic changes this front office has already made at the skill positions this offseason. There is a real-world reality where 4 of the 6 wide receivers on this very roster are incredibly young, high-upside players. Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins, and several fresh draft additions are all contributing to an offense whose perimeter skill talent is actively and visibly getting younger and more explosive in real time. When you add rookie running backs Kalen Black and Jordan James to that mix, the youth movement happening just beneath the surface of this roster is genuinely massive. Even if the offensive line anchors and the tight end position still skew a bit older. And this brings us to Lombardi's most vital observation, which is that we cannot miss the true nuance here. Any appraisal of this roster that reduces it to a simple, lazy old team label is too simplistic by definition. The offense has remained highly effective despite past perimeter speed limitations. And this entire offseason was specifically targeted toward addressing exactly those weaknesses. Mike Evans adds a massive, elite contested catch threat who runs incredibly clean routes despite his veteran status. Christian Kirk brings elite slot versatility and quickness. Deshaun Stribling arrives as an exciting rookie receiver with genuine, terrifying burst. The total renovation of this offense is actively happening right in front of our eyes, even if it isn't as loud or headline-grabbing as the panic moves the Eagles or the Rams have made. Now, let us talk about what the advanced analytics community has been buzzing about, because this is where things get genuinely fascinating from a pure football perspective. There has been a highly detailed discussion circulating around the 49ers' expected points added per play numbers, specifically broken out by motion versus non-motion plays, and the findings are absolutely striking. San Francisco famously uses pre-snap motion on roughly 65 to 70% of their offensive snaps, which is one of the highest rates in the entire league. If you remove end-of-half situations and standard 2-minute hurry-up scenarios where motion can't really be deployed efficiently, that number likely pushes even higher. In fact, close to 80% of their standard, normal offensive play calls involve motion at some level. But here's the mind-blowing part of the data. When you split the expected points, added numbers between motion plays and non-motion plays for the 49ers, their non-motion numbers rank first in the entire National Football League. Let that sink in for a moment. They are not just better than most teams, their non-motion efficiency is better than every other team's numbers in either category. San Francisco's base offensive execution on a per-play basis is better than any other team's motion or non-motion plays combined. Think about what that truly means for a second. In a modern league that has increasingly embraced pre-snap motion as the absolute holy grail to stress and confuse defenses, San Francisco's completely vanilla. Non-motion plays are more efficient than every other team's packages, regardless of whether those opposing teams are using motion or not. And even their motion numbers, which naturally carry a much larger sample size of plays and therefore regress slightly due to the sheer volume of reps involved, still grade out significantly better than the vast majority of the league. Now, to be completely fair and give you the full picture, there are legitimate statistical caveats worth acknowledging here, because this is a conversation that requires real honesty. The non-motion sample size for San Francisco is relatively small given how infrequently they deploy those concepts without any window dressing. Small sample sizes are inherently more volatile, and a handful of explosive, massive big plays in those specific packages can significantly inflate a per-play average in ways that would naturally balance out over a larger sample of games. There's also a genuine question of correlation versus causation. Does Kyle Shanahan deliberately run non-motion plays only in very specific, highly advantageous situations where they are already heavily favored to succeed? If so, that would naturally inflate the numbers. These are completely fair analytical questions to ask. But even if you grant every single one of those caveats, the sheer gap in the numbers is stunning. It strongly suggests that the foundational efficiency of this offense, even without any of the pre-snap motion bells, whistles, and deception, is genuinely elite. The motion itself appears to be an extra layer of extreme stress and distraction placed on top of an already dominant base, rather than being the primary crutch making the offense work. But here is the most powerful, emotional argument for why nobody should be sleeping on this 49ers offense heading into the future, and it is the exact argument that should completely shut down the old and brittle narrative once and for all. Let us look at what this brotherhood actually accomplished in 2025, despite absolutely everything going completely wrong around them. And it went wrong in a massive way. The face of the defense, Nick Bosa, suffered a heartbreaking torn ankle in Week 3, a devastating blow that could have easily derailed their entire season. Star tight end George Kittle battled through agonizing pain and injuries throughout the year. Even franchise quarterback Brock Purdy missed extended time with his own painful injury, forcing a backup quarterback to step into the fire and carry the weight of this historic franchise for long, grueling stretches of the season. Then you look at the wide receiver room, where Brandon Ayuk, who was supposed to return and make a major, spectacular impact as a foundational piece, faced his own immense uphill battles. The star linebacker Fred Warner suffered a dislocated ankle in Week 6 that initially looked season-ending, sending shockwaves of worry through the entire fan base. Yet, despite the locker room resembling a literal walking hospital, despite losing the fewest sacks in the league at one point because their pass rush was decimated, this team dug deep into their souls. They refused to quit. They refused to let the national media write their obituary. Kyle Shanahan rallied his men. The young defense stepped up with an incredible fire. And the team somehow pushed through the storm to finish with an incredible 12-5 record, fighting all the way to the divisional round of the playoffs. That is not the story of a fragile, aging roster on the decline. That is the definitive proof of a championship culture built on pure grit, resilience, and unyielding dedication. With Mike Evans and Christian Kirk now injected into this offense, bringing a perfect blend of elite veteran savvy and red zone dominance, combined with a massive influx of explosive youth, the 49ers are not stepping back. They are reloaded, dangerous, and highly motivated to shock the world. As we wrap up this documentary, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone watching. We put so much hard work, late nights, and intense dedication into researching and creating videos like this to give you the real truth behind the game. Every single subscription we receive acts as an incredible motivation for us to keep fighting for this community. So please, if you haven't already, subscribe to NFL Focus, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and leave a comment below telling us if you think the 49ers will win the division this year. Thank you for your incredible support, and we will see you on the very next video.